Okay, sorry.
So, Mr. Yost, in late 2007, early 2008, Lehman Brothers took a bunch of securities, bundled them, worth a total of about $50 billion, and they sold them to a third party, correct?
Yes, and that's all done in accordance with GAAP. I mean, that's the Repo 105 transaction.
That's correct, and that was called Repo 105. So you approved these Repo 105 transaction as a partner at Ernst & Young, right?
Yes, we would have been the one to, audit the financial statements.
And whenever you looked at their income statement, balance sheet, financial statements, you noticed they classified it as a sale, right?
Correct. Well, so the repo transactions, the repurchase transactions in general, are a little bit different than your normal ones for everyday banks. These repurchase transactions, since they were done at the rate of 105 or 108 in the case of repo 108, these transactions were allowed to be classified under GAAP as sales because they were outside of the rate of 98 to 102, which is what GAAP kind of requires for the normal transactions. So since these were different, we were able to classify them as sales, and then obviously when the liabilities or the obligations would come due, they were repaid. But for the time being, Lehman Brothers was able to classify that as a sale.
So when did these transactions actually take place?
Middle of 2007. I don't remember the exact dates off the top of my head.
But weren't they taking place right before the quarter ended?
Yes, I guess they would have been right at the end of the quarter.
How many times did these transactions happen? Did it happen once, twice, bunch of times?
I think it's just twice to the best of my knowledge.
So, from my understanding, these transactions took place 2 consecutive quarters, and it was so that the 50 billion transactions, the obligations were due after the quarter ended, which would in turn impact the financial statements. Did management know these were going on?
Yeah, I mean, they would have been the ones to approve the transactions, and they would have known it was going on. We had discussions with them about it.
What about the board of directors or the audit committee?
I assume management would have informed them of the transactions.
Well, what about the investors in Lehman Brothers? Was it ever disclosed to them in any capacity?
I don't know that it ever was. I mean, obviously, these were short-lived transactions, though, so, I don't know if it was ever disclosed to them or not.
Let's just be clear. So Lehman Brothers took $50 billion, and they bundled up these securities. They sold it to a third party with the contingent agreement they would buy it back. Lehman Brothers documented this as a sale. But they also decided that they did not have to disclose to their shareholders that this was a contingent agreement. They would just say it was a sale. And not only did this happen once in order to meet the earnings, it happened twice in 2 consecutive quarters. And all this, you okay as an audit partner at Ernst & Young?
Yeah, I guess, yes, that is correct.
Did you do this because you didn't think it was important to disclose, or you're worried about the shareholders' reaction?
I don't think we thought they were, within the bounds of GAAP, and we have the procedures in place that we knew how to structure these transactions, and they knew how to structure the transactions, and we knew how to ensure that they were done properly, and that's exactly what we did. I don't think we ever we never thought, and still don't think that we were in the wrong for how these transactions are structured.
So a 50 billion liability doesn't have to be disclosed.
I don't know about that.
So look, we understand that Lehman Brothers was a big client for you and Ernst & Young. You were they were under pressure. They were a big client. We also know that you thought this transaction was in accordance of GAAP. We totally understand that.
You didn't mean to deceive your shareholders.
No, I don't think we never meant to deceive anybody with these transactions.
So, do you, now looking back, see that it should have been disclosed?
Yeah, I guess, you know, looking back at the,
Hindsight being 2020.
yeah, hindsight's 2020, I think that maybe these transactions should have been disclosed given the size and timing of them.
Yeah, so we appreciate you acknowledging that, just continuing this flow. Do you think that, or can you tell us why it actually wasn't disclosed, if it should have been?
You know, I don't know that there's really any particular reason. I think, you know, obviously, Ernst & Young at the time, you know, Lehman Brothers is a big client of ours. You know, Lehman Brothers obviously is a large financial institution, was, you know, one of the largest in the country, let alone the world at that time. And so, you know, there's a lot of pressure that goes along with that. And I think, you know, we were trying to ensure that, you know, we audited them correctly, but at the same time, we didn't want to, you know, cause, you know, undue, you know, stress or anything for shareholders, and we wanted them to, you know, continue to be our client. We wanted them to, you know, continue to operate, you know, being one of the largest banks.
Mr. Yost, we know none of this is easy. I mean, being here, talking to us, but we really appreciate you working with this investigation and cooperating and being very straightforward with us. We know that's, like I said, that's not easy. But just moving forward, we would really appreciate if you would take some time and we could just get some of this down on paper. And with me, I have a paper and a pen, and I was hoping that you would just write out your confession and then sign it at the bottom.
Yeah, I can do that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Yost. Appreciate it.
Thank you.